Hello guys, welcome to my channel, the Pseudo BITSian, and today we have one of the renowned industry leader, Mr. Ravinder Singh with us. And he was, just to quickly introduce him, he was earlier working with Dell, I believe, at a country level as a senior head at a so now also he's working as a co-founder of a company. So sir, we just wanted to know about brief of his journey, starting from the corporate life, how what all you did and what are you doing now.
Well, Jim, first of all, thanks for hosting me here. So if I have to summarize my journey in just one sentence, I should say that it's been now 25 years in technology industry, in multiple countries, multiple roles, and mainly in three major organizations. Spent most of my time with Cisco,
Okay.
then Dell Technologies and Wipro. And
Okay.
during last 17 to 18 years, luckily I have been fortunate enough to work with the front end of leading edge technology like digital transformation and all the emerging areas around artificial intelligence, IoT, smart cities.
Yes.
So my last few years have been spent in helping customers and stakeholders develop these digital models, architecture around digital transformation, consulting customers and creating new solutions. And last year, I decided to venture out and launch my own startup. I still call it a startup because every company has to go through their journey.
Yeah.
And since last year, we have been helping customers across Asia and the Middle East and Africa digital transformation. We provide consulting, and my company also has recently launched an innovative cloud solution called GoKadal, which is world's first digital solutions exchange in the cloud. So we are still trying to create a value for our customers to make them more digital savvy. And this Corona situation, unfortunately, though it has created a problem for everyone, we all know.
Right.
But one positive line, if I have to say about this whole COVID is that it has strengthened the belief that technology and digital
Yeah.
is going to run this world. And if you agree with me, and I'm sure you will, last 2 months we have all been locked down. But in spite of that, one thing which has helped people to talk to each other, to interact, to communicate, to do their business, kids to learn, and right now we are using the same technology. So technology is what is going to define what we are going to do tomorrow.
So of course, thank you for the throwing some light on this. But my next question from here would be: will it be really good on relying so heavily on technology?
Well, technology cannot be solution to everything, but it's an enablement. See, today, let's take the basic three ingredients what any person in this world needs, which in Hindi we call roti kapda makan, right?
Yes.
So when we are locked down, the basic necessity of our life, roti kapda makan, if required, some people, they are using technology to order food, right?
Yes.
They're using technology with shops closed, stores closed. Now, the basic question is, if somebody doesn't have money, can he still use technology to survive? Now, that is one burning question, which I would say that technology, as I said, may not be a solution, but it's a big enabler.
Yes.
Today, there are people who lost their jobs, for example, companies who are shutting down. But still, in spite of that, the same people, since we can't venture out and search for jobs or talk to somebody, we are using technology to at least go and connect to our partners, peers, stakeholders. And this can actually help create new revenue models, which can create new jobs for people.
Okay. Nice, sir. Thank you, sir. My again, sir, next question would be, if we go 5-7 years back in time, so itna startups nahi aa rahe the India mein, but now of course even at the government changed, the scenario changed. Now we seeing like every other second, third, fourth person is thinking of startup, and almost all these startups have a basis of technology. मतलब technology के base पे ही business model खड़ा हुआ है. So my again question will be कि why in India there is a problem कि इतने, let's say अगर 100 startups आते हैं, then why there is a success rate of, let's say, only 1% or maybe less than 1%.
Yes, you rightly said this, and one of the area I have looked at very closely is during my earlier role with both Dell and with Cisco. One of the responsibilities I had was to work with these startups to enable their solutions so that Dell or Cisco would embed those solutions in their whole portfolio. So we have done that, and I have watched closely. Three basic factors which are creating problems, I should say problems or challenges for startups to be successful. The first one is, in spite of having a beautiful product, let me tell you personally, I have seen startups in India having very innovative, beautiful solutions, which can actually become global. The problem is they never. And one of the biggest challenge, I should not be very critical of our processes, but our support, what we get from the government. And I'll take one example. If you start a startup and you have a little money to get into startup, though on paper, we always say that startups are given exemptions, startups are given certain policies are there which help. But what I have practically seen, and most of my startups with whom I work, they have also corroborated this fact, is that the moment you register your startup, you start a GST, you're supposed to hire a CA to pay him to do everything, file your returns. And if you don't do that, there's a penalty. When we started a startup in Karnataka, we never knew, because many of us never worked in Karnataka earlier. We will never know that Karnataka levies a separate tax on companies called professional tax, which nobody coming from outside will know. And when you register a startup in Karnataka, government or these agencies never tell you what to do. But after 3 months, you get a notice saying you have not registered for professional, so you are being levied a penalty. So and you want to raise money. There are different rules. Though last couple of years, some things have eased, but let me tell you, this has always remained and will remain a bigger block. Now, why I say this, because I have a startup registered in Dubai. My global platform registered in Dubai. The kind of policies, the kind of what I say exemptions, what I get in Dubai, I'm not seeing in India. For example, you start a startup, you are not supposed to submit your annual balance sheet for next 2 years. In India, even if you are 7-month-old startup, you are supposed to hire a lawyer, or a CA, pay him, and these CAs take a lot of money, 20, 30, 40, 50,000. Now, a startup has to first put money in product, then put money in his office, his people, and then put money for government policies, which is actually a small, I shouldn't use this word, but a killing kind of thing. So that remains the biggest factor for startups to reach that stage, number one. Number two, we have a solution which we create, and now we want to try. Again, the problem that I've seen is everybody wants us to do a free pilot. Okay, I was working with a startup in a US kind of environment, and what they said is, if you are able to do a pilot, we'll pay for the pilot. We even pay for your tickets and stay in US during the course of this pilot. But in India, on the contrary, especially in the government, they tell you, okay, you give us a product, for next 2 months, we will try it, and then we'll tell you whether it's fit for selling or fit for buying. And how does a startup who has spent all this money now put money on pilots? And until you do pilot, nobody's going to buy this product from you. So that, but I've seen a small relaxation which government had done, announced at least, practically, I don't know how successful it's been, that startups can participate in bids. They don't have to pay EMDs and all those kind of things. Fine. But still we have a long way to go. So that's the second problem. The third and problem is the whole mentality of working with startups. I started a startup, and a lot of people came to me because I have been in industry for 25 years. And for that network relationship, a lot of people said, you know what, I would like to work with you. And I said, fine, I have a startup. I may not be able to pay you salary, but I will do that. I'll give you equity. And nobody agrees to that. People say, oh my God, equity, I don't need it. Though they don't realize that once the startup becomes big, the same equity will be multifold in terms of money. But the problem is everybody wants a monthly salary. And for a startup, again, as a founder, I may not take salary, but I need to pay salary to somebody I hire, which I cannot. Right. So then I have to either hire people who don't have that kind of experience, and that's pretty much most of the startups do. And then they go for, then they have to, that's a catastrophe for them. And if I get somebody very good, he will only come to me when he doesn't find any other job. He'll come to me and say, okay, I'm ready to work with you against equity or something like that. So there are some problems, but I hope the startup culture started a bit late in India. It started in Silicon Valley way back in 80s, and that's what we have today. All Microsoft and Cisco, they were all startups, right? If they did not have that kind of support from government, from society, they wouldn't have been these big corporations today.
Yes. The next question would be, sir, what do you think after all this COVID thing is over? what sort of business models will survive? Because of course मतलब मुझे लगता है कि it's one of the biggest learnings which not only from the like life point of view but from the like major point of view we get a good lesson that okay nature at the end is the motherhood, so we should not disrespect. So what sort of business model do you think will survive and what would not?
Yes. So two things I should like to mention here. One is even before COVID, for last 7-8 years, I should say, in India, and I have been lucky enough to be part of this whole transformation, is that many companies realized that traditional work environments are no longer sufficient. Okay, so virtual work environments, people working from anywhere, people working from home for some part of the time, not always, people working from airports during travel and all those things. It only started few years back. Still, there are companies, let me tell you, there are companies who will never let an employee to use his personal mobile for office work, saying, oh, it's a big security risk. Yes, there is. But then if you look at all the big, especially with American corporations, they allowed these kind of things way back 10 years back. When I was with Cisco, we were allowed to use your own phone or bring your own device, of course, with all those security features, which the company will manage. Now, what it does is two things. Number one, it gives a sense of belongingness to the employee. Yeah. Number two, it helps people to be productive. I don't have to go to office every morning. You know, long back when I started in the first company, I have to reach office at 8:30. If I don't reach, then it will be marked absent, right? Yeah. Now, so the first thing what COVID has done, though by force, this was already known that this will happen, and this was already happening. But now COVID has actually made it forcefully that let people work from wherever they are. With internet penetration, especially in urban areas in India, very good. Let people work from home, number one. Let people use their own devices. Of course, security is a thing which they have to take care. And number three, we always used to feel, we means when I am a customer, I also feel that if somebody calls me that I want to sell you something, say an insurance policy, I would like to call the person home, and they used to come. They will explain me, and then only I will try and say, okay, let me do this. Now, with last 2 months situation, what we have understood is even customers have realized that if I need to buy something, I need to look at something, let us use the channels, let us use the virtual channels, the tools. And the good thing is these tools keep continuing working, right? Yes. So the other thing which is going to change now is no longer will have to just travel just to meet a customer. And I have done it. A lot of us have done it. The customer says, okay, I may not be able to talk to your phone much. Why don't you come to this place? Which means I have to book a flight, go there, spend a lot of money, and only to go and meet the customer and then realize, okay, he's not the right customer. Customer realizing it's not the right portfolio for him. So at least for companies, this is going to be a savior that you're not going to spend all those unnecessary costs until it is very much required for me to travel and meet a customer. Because even if I go and meet a customer today, he's not going to touch, he's not going to meet me, he's not going to shake hands. We have to still say, sit maybe 10 feet apart and talk. Then why don't we use channels like this, right? And they are working, fine. So all these things had already started. I should not say they're starting now, but what COVID has done has given a belief or strengthened the belief that this is what is going to work. So tomorrow, when COVID goes away and hopefully everything opens, I'm sure many companies would resort to same. So as a startup, what we have done is we said, no office, because even if my team comes to office, what they do in office, everybody sits on his laptop. The only thing we do in office is see each other. Which we can do here. So even after COVID is over, I don't think, number one, until unless you require a critical team to sit in office, you don't need an office, number one. And as a startup, we have taken a call that we'll keep our registered office as it is because it's required, it's the address, and we will use that. But our operations office, which was a sales office in a different location, we are closing down. There's no point for people to come to office and then go for their meetings. Let them work from home. The second thing, use digital. And that is what I also have been telling customers. And I'll just summarize this with one example. In 2016, we did a survey. We means I was working with Dell Technologies then. We did a global survey to find out what is the digital enablement and adoption process. And we found in India, 45% customers were evaluating, and around 30% were evaluating, 45% were not even evaluating, and only 19% had adopted. 2016. By 2018 end, when the same survey was repeated, same companies, that 19% adoption went up to 46%, which is 2.x growth.
Yes.
And the people who were evaluating went up from 30% to 47%. And the number of people who did not have digital went down from around 40% to hardly 17%. Okay, so this happened in 2018. Now, what would happen in last 3 months is the same customers, that number has multiplied. And one example is Microsoft. It announced that their cloud business grew 775% in the first 4 weeks of COVID, which is an unprecedented growth. And that's a fact.
Okay, nice, sir. Like it's really, another even like I was really shocked to hear that because I had never thought it would be growing like this. Of course, we would all know that like things have taken a certain drift and taken a certain change. Like no one was even knowing what Zoom call is, but now I think its download rate has gone up to 100, 200 times.
Absolutely.
Yeah, of course that would have worked. So one other thing, like you have worked in so many companies, so many demographic regions. So what one thing you would like really to want to adapt from there and implement in India so that the startup thriving rates become better?
I think I already told you these few things which we had adopted and we had looked at from mature countries or developed countries. Like I did some project in Korea, I worked in Malaysia, I looked at Singapore in this region. And then on the Western side, US, we always take that example. They had already adopted these practices and we had started, but it took some time. So number one, the whole thing of this being virtually present, this is one thing which is now already done here. The second thing what I would like to adopt from those countries is the professionalism in terms of people who want to work in a startup environment. Because as I mentioned, startups do not offer you all those perks and luxuries what a Fortune 500 company. And let me also tell this thing on record that after this COVID, even those Fortune 500 companies would also resort to these kind of policies now, because they also realize that having so many employees and giving so many perks would actually one fine day create a problem, because now they have so many employees sitting home, they have to still pay them salaries, bonuses, and all those kind of things, number one. So the work culture which startups require, which people should adopt, I think that is one thing which we need to adopt. And the third and most important thing which I would again reiterate is use of digital as much as possible, because this is what is tomorrow. You know, we have come a long way in last 25, 30 years, and I actually call it the third wave of digital disruption. The first one hit us in late 80s when computerization happened. And it took around many years, I think 10 to 12 years for a country like India to adopt. And slowly and gradually, they realized that, oh, computers are not going to create a problem for jobs, but actually they're helping create jobs. And that's what we saw. Second thing, digital disruption, second wave hit us when internet and smartphones came up. Yeah. Again, some people were not wary and they said, no, you need to come to office at 8 o'clock. You need to sit in office in your cubicle and work. But today they have also realized that we can't do that. And third wave of disruption is now when things like collaboration tools, cloud, artificial intelligence, IoTs, and blockchains, and all these new emerging technologies are making our work easier. Let me tell you in the last 4 weeks, what I've seen after talking to a lot of my peers and partners and stakeholders is companies who had already adopted these tools, they practically had no impact, practically. The only impact was they were not able to touch each other saying, oh, hi, good morning. That's it. Yeah. But then every morning, WhatsApp saying good morning, right? So for companies who had started adopting digital, they fast-tracked it. And I know a couple of my customers calling me and saying, I want my kids in school, my kids to be trained online, but I have no tool. So we help them with the platform. The third kind of customer who had never even thought about this, they were all who actually woke up to a harsh reality. Yes. And I'm sure after this COVID is over, all those customers will also. That is the third thing I want people to look and adopt as soon as possible they can.
So my second last question would be, we all always say that, of course, you also said at the starting also that, of course, we are realizing that technology will be most of the, I'm not saying to every problem, but maybe the most of the solution to most of the problems. So, but I'll ask a question like, will it really jeopardize the human opportunity?
Well, I won't use the word jeopardize, but I will definitely use the word impact. Yes, it will. It is. Now, what does that mean? Both positive and negative. 1980s, when Government of India decided that we'll introduce computerization in banking industry, it is said and I used to be a student then, that many bank employees and unions actually went on strike against this, because their biggest fear was the moment computer comes, our job is over.
Yes.
Right? That was a concept.
Yes.
But what happened after 10, 15 years, the number of jobs in banking sector actually grew multifold because of computerization, privatization, ATMs, cards, because it created new kind of job profiles.
Yes.
Of course, the impact was for people who were not adopting that. For example, typists.
Yes.
There used to be people with typewriters, people with shorthands. They lost their jobs, but then they had to convert themselves into computer operators. And that number of jobs were much higher than the earlier ones. So that's the impact. That's actually a positive impact, I should say. Same way, today when we talk of technology, of course, there's an impact. In some areas, you might see that as a negative impact, that some jobs are lost. Some people might need to reskill. But they look at the other side of it. In spite, does technology today allow us to continue our business operation without going out? Yes. Does technology allow us to still deliver my lectures and syllabus to students without asking them to come to school in this COVID situation? Yes. So if you look at all these are positive impacts, right?
Okay.
In some sense, we might call it as it's a upheaval or disruption. But every new transformation starts with an upheaval and disruption. And
Thank you, sir. Thank you. That was one of the things I always thought about. कि कहीं ऐसा ना हो कि आगे चल के problems हो. But of course, yes. I think with everything, of course, there are two sides of every coin, and of course, we have to deal with both. My last question for you, sir, like you have immense experience, like what's your definition of a developed India for a country like India?
Very simple, where every person, every citizen is able to spend a day peacefully, without having to worry about what is in it for tomorrow. Today, in spite of having everything, there are people who have got everything. You have a house, you have a car, you have money. You don't know tomorrow what's going to happen, because at any point or something new comes up and you have to run around. So a developed society for me is where everyone spends his day so luxuriously or so peacefully that at least 24 hours in a day. And I don't think that's happening today in this country.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for your great insights. We have learned so much from your learning. And guys, please do ask sir any questions. If you have, please write any comments. And if you have any doubts also, and please like, share, and subscribe. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.